Be very quiet. I'm hunting wabbits. Y'all, I've wanted to do this video for quite some time. Matter of fact, I've had this title written down for over a year now in my book to do. It's called The Only Men in My Life That I Listen To. I really hope you absorb it over the holidays. I really hope that it blesses your life, because this has done a ton for me in the perspective that I want you to have moving forward. So without further ado, talking about the only men I listen to, I've been around a whole lot of powerful people in country music. I bumped elbows with all the biggest celebrities that there are. And what I've realized is all these traits that we admire so much, whether they're smart, whether they're very successful, whether they're powerful, whether they're famous, all these things, they're just traits. None of those traits, though, are ever going to be there for us when we really, really need them. So the first thing I want to look at today is who is allowed to correct you in your life. And the reason I say that is most of us hate being corrected. We absolutely hate it. And it's an uncomfortable thing unless that person that is correcting you is extremely trustworthy and they've been there for you since day one. Now, most of our first experience with other men are our dads, and I've got a great relationship with mine. Others are football coaches, old baseball coaches I've got from the past that have invested in me for 20 plus years, who could call me right now, have my full attention, and I would sit down and I would listen to them, yes sir, and walk through whatever conversation we're about to have. Now, there's my Uncle Johnny. I tell you all about Uncle Johnny before. I live down here outside of Jackson, Mississippi. I go to Nashville once a year to record. He lives up here in Memphis. It's the perfect halfway spot. And every time I go record, Uncle Johnny says, "We meeting for lunch, right?" And so we meet up for lunch. He asked me about what's going on in my life, my wife, my kids, my friends, my church, the sports my kids are playing. He wants to know about everything. And that man has always been intentional. So this has never happened, but if Uncle Johnny ever decided to call me up and say, "You are way out of line, and here's what you're out of line on," I would completely put everything down and I would listen to every word he had to say. Whether I agree with it or whether I didn't, he would have the floor, because that man has been intentional and earned my respect for many, many, many years. The next thing is, I would highly, highly encourage y'all to get a mentor. In my opinion, a mentor needs to be 15 to 20 years older than you currently are. The reason for that is that mentor has already walked through that stage of life that you're trying to figure out right now. You can't get anybody that's a peer. A peer is walking through it just like you are. They ain't got it figured out. Get somebody 15 to 20 years older. Now, I feel like my dad had a stroke of genius. When I was 20 years old, he sent me down to Melbourne, Australia. Shout out to all my Aussies watching this, to work at a church down there. And there I met a man named Paul. I spent a few months living in Australia. Paul, I was 20, he was about 40. Paul invested in me deeply. He cared about my life, wasn't a bunch of bullcrap. He was harsh when he needed to be harsh. And he also did something really smart. He put me in a house with a bunch of unmarried, guys that, blokes as they call them in Australia. They're about 30 and I was 20. So maturity-wise, I went from 20 to 30 in just about one summer of my life. And I came home, I didn't want to do the same stuff that all the 20-year-olds were doing. And it was a great, great thing. Matter of fact, Paul and I still Skype to this day. We talked last week. We'll Skype a couple times a year and we'll just talk. And he is truly my mentor. I was never in any of this music stuff. I was never in the public limelight or anything like that. I was just buddy. And the fact that he knew me back then and cared makes me understand and truly trust the fact that he knows me and cares now, and it's not a bunch of fluff. So find a mentor. They're so incredibly important in your life. And look, I've got family, extended family, that could absolutely give a crap about me, but they've never cared about me from day one, so at least they've always been consistent. But do you actually think any of those people could call me up and say anything or correct me or guide me to this direction or that, and I would actually listen? No, because they've never been there for me and they've never shown that they've cared. They never invested. They've never been intentional. That's the importance of a mentor or somebody that's trusted, like a coach, a dad, an uncle, and all these things that I'm telling y'all to get in your lives. For any young men that are watching this, I would just ask y'all, do you take an interest in other people's struggles? Do you take an interest in other people's challenges as if they're your very own? Because Philippians 2 verses 3 and 4 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, consider others better than yourself." That's hard to do, right? Not looking to your own interest, but to the interest of others. Really, really tough, because that's what it's going to take for anybody to take stock in the stuff that you're saying. I already told you how powerful and life-changing this stuff was for me, for somebody like me. Think of the power that you're holding for somebody else that's just waiting to be encouraged, just waiting to be propped up, if you would just speak into their lives. If you didn't start it off right, that's okay, you still got time. But the bottom line is, you gotta invest in something bigger than just yourself. Because I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. One day you're gonna catch your dreams. You're gonna catch them. And you're gonna build up all these beautiful walls all around you, and it's gonna be incredible. And you're gonna look around and say, man, I have arrived, when really you haven't. And you got absolutely nobody to share it with in the whole world, because you built up all these walls, you built up all these great material things, and you look around, nobody's sharing it with you, nobody's enjoying it with you. That's a pretty empty feeling, y'all, trust me, because I've been there. So going into this next year, I really want y'all to make some headway on this stuff. I really want me to make some headway on this stuff and walk through it together, because there's going to be a whole lot more videos like this. Cliff notes I want to give you for the end of this video is, who is in your life that can say anything to you and you would listen because they've earned your respect? Write down who that is. Who is your mentor? If you don't have one, get one, 15 to 20 years older than you currently are, and invest in those younger than you are. I got a bunch of little nieces, little nephews. Man, I pour into them like there is no tomorrow. I hope and pray when they're 20, 25 years old, 30, they're going to be calling Uncle Buddy, because I got all the time in the world for them, and they know that. But it's a beautiful thing. Just remember, somebody out there, and you probably know who it is their soul is begging for you to invest in them, or their soul is just begging to be, to pour into you. You are not too good, and I am not too good to feel like we have all the answers. We don't need any kind of guidance outside of our own minds and our own thinking, our own stubborn ways. I love this. Hope this was challenging, and I really hope it blesses you, because I want to do a whole lot more of these next year. And y'all be good going into Christmas. God bless you. Bye-bye.